Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. I'm joined in the studio by someone you may recognize from earlier. Shameless plug, 10 o'clock every Thursday. Property Quorum. Chris would have been part of that. And he is here today in his position as one of the driving forces behind Root Home, a property development organization specifically focusing on social housing. And today we're talking about something that is, I wouldn't say much caught his attention because it's been in the works for a while, has it not? But this whole new business of relaxation within permitted development. So would you tell us a bit more about what that means, and then also perhaps roll on to how it affects your business and business in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been an ongoing consultation around the permitted development rights, which are, for those of you who don't know, there are certain things that you can do to modify your property that you don't have to apply for planning for. So you still have to submit plans or confirmation of your plans, but certain rights that you are already ascribed to you, and you can do certain things just by telling the planning officer that this is what you will be doing within a certain set.
So less onerous process, I would say, slightly.
Yeah. Oh, hugely. So the yeah, like I say, you still have to engage with them. They still have they have a fixed amount of time to respond to you in, so 56 days. And if they haven't objected or told you why you can't do it within that time frame, it's automatically assumed that you do have rights to go ahead and do what you were going to do. Now, at the moment, there are some restrictions, and like I said, there's a big consultation that's been going on, which has got to a stage now where it's from the professionals I've been speaking with in the background, they're saying it's almost like 99% rubber stamped that it's going to happen. So it will involve increasing the size of extension you can put on your property. So at the moment, you can only have on a terrace or a semi, I believe it's 3 meters, a double extension, 3 meters, going 3 meters back, which you can do under your PD rights, permitted development rights, and a side extension, but you can't do a wraparound without having to go through the full planning process. So they're basically increasing a meter on the back end in terms of doing a double-story extension, so up to 4 meters for a terrace or a semi, or 5 meters for a detached. And the single story, they're talking about being able to do the wraparound, so where it connect. If you imagine an L shape, previously you'd have to do the single extension on the side and then the extension on the back, but couldn't join them up, which was a bit weird. Then they've kind of figured out actually that is a bit weird. So people want to utilize that corner space as well, and so they're starting to relax the regulations on that one too. So that will hopefully be included in the PD, right? So you can do a full wraparound without having to go to full planning. So the upshot of it all is that you're putting quite a substantial footprint on the size of your original property.
Right.
So yeah, it's wonderful. It's great. So I totally get why they're trying to do it. We've talked repeatedly about the lack of supply of in the market, or lack of available stock in the market. One of the big challenges that as families grow, they're going to need more space. So it's trying to get people to be able to utilize the existing property rather than trying to have to move to somewhere else.
There's been a bit pressure on that for the last, I think, 5-6 years for people to try and focus on what can they do where they are without having to move somewhere else. So this is. I mean, we're talking about quite a radical change here, are we not? I mean, the amount of space that can be realised by doing this.
Yep, and there's some other stuff in the works as well in terms of going up into the loft and what you can do up there.
Right.
Including the increasing the size of dormers that you can put on the property. And there was discussion, although we were talking off air about this, I don't know where it's up to. It's probably one of the more contentious issues about whether or not they will increase the height that you can go up. Because at the moment you have some people who they're having to accommodate a third floor. They're actually having to drop all their ceilings and floors in the property and rebuild at slightly smaller levels to squeeze it all in. There's a possibility they might be able to take the whole roof and lift it a little bit, but I don't know on that one. So it's all very interesting, and it all adds up to quite a substantial increase on the footprint of the property and the gross internal area.
I mean, you're talking possibly even double in some circumstances. Now,
So
from your perspective,
mm,
as a person who focuses on creating HMOs out of dwellings, this opens up a world of possibility. Although there are some negatives.
so interestingly, they've actually put provision in the new in the consultation for putting in bin stores. Sorry, not just bin stores, but also bike stores in the fronts of properties. Because at the moment you have where you have multiple accommodation properties, or properties that have been turned into flats, for example, or obviously HMO like we do. You have what they quaintly term bin blight at the front of the properties. You have to provide enough bins for all the tenants.
Absolutely.
It's a necessary evil. So yeah, they've cottoned on to the fact that they really do need to utilise the footprint of the property, the whole area of the property, and provide enough of the facilities and amenities that you would expect to have for that property. So they are specifically also looking at people using these properties as an HMO angle, and making sure there's enough provision like bin stores, bike stores at the front of the property to accommodate and work with the tenants that are going into these properties.
Well, certainly within the larger towns and cities, we're having an ever increased demand on property and places for people to live.
Mhm.
And so there is a demand, dare I say, and I always mention it, for good quality HMOs,
Oh yeah.
because there's a lot of crap out there. We're talking about good quality, and I have to state for the record that Chris is very much in the quality end of this. So he has a standard that things have to keep up to. But there is a demand for this, and I suspect an increasing demand.
Yeah, yeah. And from my perspective, it will help to alleviate and open up supply in certain areas. So, for example, previously I couldn't look at a two-bed terrace. Well, most two-bed terraces wouldn't have the gross internal area to accommodate 6 tenants and all the
It would be a
facilities in
ridiculous squeeze. It would be a
there. Well,
ridiculous.
each local authority has a different set of standards that you have to abide by in terms of allocations for amenities, toileting provision, kitchen provision, everything else, which is absolutely fair. That does vary from authority to authority, but you've got to provide the correct amenities for each HMO. A small two-bed terrace, there's no way, and I could have done it without a full planning application and pretty much knocking it back to a shell, possibly going up higher, going all the way to the back. And like I say, that will be a full planning application. Could take 6 months to go through. Could take. I mean, I know colleagues who are doing stuff in Wales, and it's taken nearly 2 years because it's gone all the way through to committee, and they just drag their heels. That's not commercially viable to wait so long on projects and have so many stacked up in the planning process, because it's capital. Ultimately, it's you got a capital churn on your business, and you can't have all that money tied up in basically legal disputes with planners. You need money coming in at some point. So it will help alleviate supply. It will open up access to properties that investors had previously discounted. Now, from my point of view, is my perspective is I would rather take out one small family house, a two bed, and then take that out of the provision for families, but then supply property for 6 people, because then that's six one-bed flats that those people are not occupying. So there's different ways of looking at it. I think we are helping to alleviate the housing challenge by supplying good quality HMO.
I think it's a necessary part of the process.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of single people or people literally their first property or even first rental who would jump at the chance for a decent quality HMO or to be part
Hmm.
of. The issue is that the properties available to do this have always been very limited within a certain series of boundaries, and this could suddenly broaden the whole thing. But you
Yeah.
did mention the negative aspect of doing this. which we need to balance this up, because otherwise it all sounds like far too much good news. Come on, tell me.
It's the cost. It's the cost. It's as simple as that.
Right.
So you're talking what, 70 grand for these sort of types of refits. Yeah, easily a budget of 70 grand would be reasonable, because it's so substantial. Now that's a blessing and a curse, because obviously it's a huge amount of capital to go in at the front end. You would, with the 6 beds, you're going to make the return. You're going to make the return back, so you get paid back out of the income. The other side of the other reason it's a good thing is that actually you fly by night cowboy amateur investors probably will say no to it because of the scale of works, because of the amount of capital you need to do it. So it's kind of raising the bar a little bit in terms of, you will only probably see professional investors doing this because they know that they will get the return. They know they can get the access to capital, but they're prepared to make that investment in themselves and their properties. So
you're saying the fly-by nights, the amateur builders and the small builders will probably be not interested in this sort of project purely because the scale of the works involved.
Yeah.
But by the same token, that means that the quality will be higher on the finished products when they're done, and you're going to end up with much more saleable properties. But on top of that, much more availability for HMO investors like yourself, because you're able to produce something that you can provide 6 dwellings within the space of one, good quality dwellings. Now, when will we know? Do you have a clue? I crystal ball gazing time, I know, but
the consultation officially finishes in 5 days. That's the public element of the consultation. Like I say, the people who we're having conversations with in the background think it's already a done deal, and the government likes to pretend to engage, right? And it really made its mind up already.
Of course it does. This is your choice. When will you take it? All right, cool. So, do you think that within, 5 days is when the public side is, and when do you think it will?
Probably shortly after, towards the end of the month, I think we'll see some movement on it. I mean, the budget we were talking about a few weeks back was such a damp squib that maybe they'll be using things like this to drop as the lead up into the election in May. So interesting times. So little teasers for us, I guess. But
Exactly.
I'm expecting this to be imminent. So we're currently adapting our targeting strategy for the properties that we're looking at, honing in on these particular types of units that are going to work for us, based on where we see the PD rights opening up to at the moment. So yeah, it's interesting times, and like I say, it opens up opportunity for us. It kind of reduces some of the competition that we're of the stock that we're fighting for, and kind of pivots us away from some of the traditional stock that we've been looking for. We primarily look for 3 or 4 bed semis and terraces. So if it opens up smaller units for us that we can convert into still decent properties, then yeah, that's definitely a boon for us.
Will you still be looking in the same geographical region as you have been historically?
Yeah, so our catchment area is the whole northwest. I'm based out of Liverpool. So as we've grown in this particular strategy, we seem to spiral out and out and out. So we're now covering Cheshire all the way up to the Cumbria Scotland border. So really the whole northwest region. And we'll keep looking.
Because in the smaller villages, and there's outreach, the houses tend to be the smaller ones anyway, don't they?
They do, yes, yeah.
So that means that this could then change all of that. Really, you could then,
yeah, potentially. I mean, there are caveats in there as well. Things like that. It doesn't detract from things like conservation areas. There may be restriction, or there may be Article 4 in areas where they restrict your permitted development rights. There's all sorts of other limitations potentially on where or when you can do this. So yeah, definitely look into the detail on it, because like anything, the devil's in the detail. He likes hiding there.
Absolutely. So look, would you just do a quick 10-second summary of where we are and where we hope to be, just so we can just tie this all up in a neat little bow?
Well, permitted development rights, they're changing for the better. Yeah, so they're removing some of the restrictions that were in place. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Guys, you heard it here. Probably not first, but you heard it here. What I would say is Chris and I weekly tend to debate things that are on the horizon that either irritate or potentially alleviate situations within his own particular area of influence, but also can affect the whole housing market. Very much welcome feedback and also direction. So if I know a lot of you guys keep coming up to me and saying about that thing you talk, yes, it'd be useful if you actually made comments. I know people don't want to be tied down to actually making comments online, but if you could tell me privately, just whisper in my ear the direction you'd like this to take, I'll feed it back to Chris, and I'm sure we'll come up with something. But thank you. In the meantime, thank you, Chris, once again. I've learned a lot today. We usually have a 5-10 minute preamble, and during that time, I tend to learn more than I had done in the previous day. So, thank you for that, Chris. And to all of you out there, try and maintain a positive aspect. I would say this is yet another indication that good things are coming down the pipe, and it might be just the current government trying to do whatever it is to try and make people look at them favorably. I think that ship may well have sailed. Either way, I think there's good stuff coming down the pipe. And I wish all of you a very pleasant weekend and, of course, great mental health. Until next time, goodbye.